Hello, everyone, and happy Friday. Thanks for joining me here for a late evening edition of Chatting in the Attic. Really excited to catch up with Kevin Ryan today to talk about Covenant House. Covenant House is one of those organizations that I toured while I was out on the campaign trail. We're also going to be joined by Rachel Brosnahan, who you probably best know as the leading actress on The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, to talk about her connection to the organization, but also her history in the arts as an artist and an actress as well. So excited to catch up with both of them. Let's bring in Kevin first to talk a little bit about COVID-19's impact on Covenant House and all the amazing things they're doing around the country. It doesn't look like Kevin is in the room yet, so we'll hold on there for just a second. Kevin, if you're in the room, just give me a wave in the comment section or a thumbs up. Yes, I forgot to mention, I cut my hair last night. I know some of you have been following that journey. I just decided to go for it. I'm sure my hairstylist would like to talk to me about the fade, but as I told Peter, I'm not fading, I'm flourishing. So there's Kevin. All right, Kevin, let's bring you in. Hey. How are you?
Good. My computer. I'm here. Okay, I figured this out. Yowza.
Nice to see you.
You too, Chasten. Thanks for having me.
Hey, I'm really excited to have you on. My tour at Covenant House in New Orleans was one of the highlights of my entire time on the campaign trail. It was a remarkable visit. I met these remarkably resilient young people and such a loving staff. And I want you to tell everybody who's watching just a little bit more about Covenant House and how you found yourself there.
Sure. Well, Covenant House works in 31 cities and in 6 countries with young people who aren't surrounded by an inspiring circle of love. It might be young people who have aged out of the foster care system. It might be young people who've been kicked out because they identify as LGBTQ. It could be young people whose parents have died. But for whatever reason, it's young people who are experiencing homelessness. And in these 31 cities and in 6 countries, Covenant House is a bridge for kids from, in many instances, hopelessness to opportunity. You happened to visit us, I think, in New Orleans, right?
Correct, yeah.
Right. So the Covenant House there is right next to Louis Armstrong Park on North Rampart. And that's actually the way that I first got involved in Covenant House. Many years ago, right out of college, my then girlfriend, now my wife, said, hey, I'm leaving and I'm going to go spend a year volunteering at Covenant House. And I was like, what is that? And when she left, she was a kid herself. And when she was done, she saw the world in a different way. And I coveted that. You know, the kids had just inhabited her heart and filled her with a sense of purpose. And she'd seen so many young people move from poverty and feeling so down to embracing everything that was in front of them. So when I finished law school, I started a fellowship at Covenant House doing civil legal aid work with kids in Manhattan, and I got hooked.
It's great. They're really lucky to have you. Now, unfortunately, with all of the amazing work you're doing to help kids, you know, either feel like they have a home, feel like they're surrounded by love, get back on their feet, whatever it is for them, you rely on a lot of generous support from other people. And unfortunately, COVID-19 has shut down a lot of your fundraisers. How is COVID-19 also directly affecting Covenant House?
Well, you know, shelter at home means one thing if you have a home, but what does it mean if you don't? And you're a kid and you're alone on the streets and you're trying to figure out, where do I eat? Where do I sleep?
Right.
How do I stay safe from the pandemic? In those many, many, many young lives, we are trying to respond as vigorously as we can. So we've created quarantine units in each of the Covenant houses, whether that's in Canada, the United States, Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, or Nicaragua. And that's enabling us to care for sick and symptomatic kids at the same time that we're working with many, many healthy young people and working to stem the infection and prevent healthy young people from becoming sick. It's also meant for us, though, that at a time when kids need us more than ever, and we certainly, with the closure of universities and colleges and high schools, are feeding many more young people than we ever have.
Yeah.
You know, we've really gotten whacked in terms of donations because so many Americans are struggling right now.
Right.
And we're responding in part by by streaming a live concert. Well, actually, the only thing live about it will be that you can see it live. It'll all be pre-recorded on the
Right.
18th of May on YouTube, on Twitch, and other platforms, and it will be celebrities from across the country and Canada who love the young people of Covenant House. Martin Short, John Bon Jovi, Audra McDonald, Stephanie J. Block, John Dickerson, Diane Keaton, Tony Shalhoub, Dolly Parton.
I love it.
Lots of folks coming out and hoping to raise attention and funds so that we can keep the doors open and help young people.
I love that. You also have this event that I learned more about in New Orleans called the Sleepout. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the Sleepout is a night of solidarity and witness. It's not pretending to be homeless, because nobody in one night is ever going to capture, as you know better than most, the anxiety and the uncertainty of being young and on the streets and trying to figure it all out. But it is a night where people ask their friends to sponsor them, and they lay down outside the Covenant House after having met with young people, understanding their stories, listening to their experiences, and then, as I said, raising money to help keep the doors open. It's raised over $70 million for us. And Rachel, who's coming up next, and is going to be a far bigger draw than the middle-aged bald fat guy who you got on right now as the warm-up act. She has been part of the Broadway Sleepout, which has now been renamed the film and, oh God, she'll tell you, it's the television, film, and Broadway Sleepout every August. She's been part of that since the beginning, and that occurs every August.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now I was at Covenant House in New Orleans for maybe an hour or two, and was completely moved by the staff that I met, the young people that I had met. I was able to sit down and talk with a few of them. Mandy Moore actually was touring the center with me on that particular swing of the campaign. And we were able to just talk to these two young women outside whose stories were just remarkable, and their resilience on display was beautiful. I'm wondering if you have any stories that always come to mind, or you hold very close to your heart, that you'd want to tell us.
Gosh, there are so many. Maybe the one that's coming freshest to mind, because I'm talking to her this coming Tuesday about potentially joining our board of directors, is April Reyes. So when April first encountered Covenant House in Anchorage, Alaska, she was barely a teenager. She was the survivor of horrific child sexual abuse and was pregnant. And she was, lost in the rabbit hole the way that many young people who've experienced violence are.
Yeah.
She found her way. She went through high school, college, raised a remarkable son, then medical school, and she now serves on the front lines of this pandemic in Washington. Wow. And she is one of many, many, many hundreds of thousands of young people who have passed through the doors of Covenant House, whether that's in Hollywood or in Washington, D.C., or in Detroit or Chicago or New Orleans, in any of the cities we're in, and just begin to build their lives again. It's really not rocket science. Young people need love, encouragement, shelter, opportunity. The scaffolding of all of our lives is someone said to us, yes, you can, yes, you can, yes, you can. And then we did. The audacity of our lives is built on lots of people. My mother told me from the earliest age, you have a beautiful voice. This is how she got me to sing in church. You have a beautiful voice. I do not have a beautiful voice, but I think I have a beautiful voice. So I sing inappropriately loudly in church because the story of my life over and over and over again was repeated to me, yes, you can. And this is true for all of us. The young people at Covenant House need lots of yes, you can. Yes, you can. And as they hear that and then believe that and own it, then we together are helium for kids' dreams.
It's fantastic. I am so grateful that Covenant House exists. I think you and I have talked about this before, but it's part of my journey when I ran away from home. My brief experience with housing insecurity was a blessing, looking back, that I was able to eventually go home to two parents who were just scared and didn't know what to do. And I'm so lucky that I got to go back home to parents who surrounded me with love and told me, yes, I can. But not every kid gets that in this country, especially as we know, 40% of homeless youth on the street identify as LGBTQIA. And it's so important that we continuously support organizations like yours that are reaching out and lifting those kids up. I would love for you to just give us maybe a reminder of when that event is that you mentioned and other ways that viewers can help Covenant House today.
Sure, 8 o'clock East Coast time, and on Twitch, Facebook Live, YouTube, and other platforms to be announced on May 18th, the night of Covenant House Stars. And for folks who are looking to help us, Covenant House right now has an acute need for PPEs, so masks, even sewn masks. If you go to covenanthouse.org and you find a Covenant House in your community, if you have some free time, if you could sew some masks and send them our way, or make a donation to Covenant House and help us purchase face shields and gowns and food for young people, all of this is helping us to keep the doors open. And because of people all across the country who are standing with us, there are many, many, many young people, thousands of young people, who tonight will sleep under a Covenant House roof. And tomorrow will rise with the new day. And I just must say that in the midst of this great unknowing, when so much anxiety besets many, many of our lives, it's the young people of Covenant House who are teaching a masterclass on what it means to walk that long, hopeful road to a better day, which is what we are all doing. But instead of our, thinking of the kids as the objects of attention or the objects of charity or the objects of affection, I think we would all do well to see them as our teachers, because they have been on this road for a long time. And if we can muster the patience and resolve and grace that they have, we're all going to be okay. We are all going to be okay.
Thank you, Kevin. I really appreciate you spending the time. And I look forward to tuning in.
Thanks, brother.
All right. Take care.
Yeah. Bye.
I hope you'll all visit covenanthouse.org, learn a little bit more about the organization, read up on the tremendous things they're doing there. And if you have the ability, I know so many people are wondering where they can send help if they're able, especially if you're at home and you have the ability to sew masks. Please look into sending some PPE towards Covenant House. We'd really appreciate it. Next, we're going to bring in Rachel Brosnahan, who I mentioned you probably know best as the lead actress on the show, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Excited to chat a little bit more about Covenant House with her and all of her activism as well as the arts. So let's bring Rachel in now. Hi there.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Great. Thank you. It's so hard to follow Kevin Ryan. I mean, come on. He speaks so beautifully about Covenant House, but thank you so much for giving us both the platform to do that.
Absolutely. I think if you have the ability and you have the platform, you should use it for good, which is why I admire you. You've been doing a lot of work and activism for Covenant House as well. I'm wondering why you chose to get involved.
Well, I got involved about 8 years ago through an event that, as Kevin mentioned, was called the Broadway Sleepout, and we've now expanded to include our film and television colleagues. So it's called, Kevin, the Sleepout Stage and Screen, which has taken place every summer for the last 8 years. And it was started by some members of the Broadway community who looked around, in Times Square and realized that the kids who were living at Covenant House on 41st Street were our Broadway neighbors. And we are all sharing this city together and should be doing what we can to uplift them and to shine a light on this organization that's doing so much beautiful work. So I did my first Sleep Out in 2013, and it was an incredible experience. It was so moving to meet some of these kids and hear them tell their stories. And it became immediately apparent that Covenant House was a place that just wrapped its arms around every single person who walked through the doors, including us that night. And as Kevin said, it became helium for kids' dreams. And to get to know some of the staff who truly are superheroes. I mean, especially right now, they are incredible.
Absolutely.
It changed my life.
I love seeing that on display when I was touring the center in New Orleans. Because I toured centers left and right on the campaign trail and was in all sorts of different settings. And as a teacher, it just made my heart aflutter when I heard, this affirming language and warm and welcoming language. And I looked around and it seemed like all the kids wanted to be there, not that they were obligated to be there. But there was just so much love there, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
So thank you for using your platform to do that. Thank you for advocating for them during this isolation and COVID-19. I'm wondering, maybe for everyone at home, just wondering how you're taking care of yourself in isolation. I know we're all doing it differently. Is there anything that you've like started binging or making or trying to learn how to do?
Yeah, I haven't yet jumped on the bread making train, but I'm sure that that's next. We've been binge watching Survivor. You know, I feel like early on it was something that our little quarantine felt like was far enough removed from the real world, but entertaining enough to kind of get us through. And there were 40 seasons, so it felt like we were
40 seasons.
There are 40 seasons, so it felt like we were covered for however long this might go on. We're about 6 seasons in. We still have a lot left to do.
Wow.
But I've been spending time with my dogs and obsessively reorganizing the furniture in my apartment and spending a lot of time getting to meet amazing people on the internet and catch up with family and friends who live far away.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, oh, well, same. So I've been enjoying, I know for everyone who's been watching these, this attic used to be a very scary place. So we've been like doing a lot of, you know, adjustments to the house and just really, I've been kind of enjoying, although it's been rough, like going from 100 on the campaign to 0. But, you know, we have nothing to complain about. We have roofs over our heads. We have food in our bellies and our pantries. So, and it's such a privilege right now to just be able to connect with people like yourself and talk about things that we love. I do miss my family. I was hoping after the campaign I'd get to go see them, but I think I FaceTimed with my mom for like an hour today, you know. Even though we have to be physically distant, we can still be social. So I'm enjoying using this platform to talk to other people. So fun fact for everyone, you were born in Milwaukee.
I was. I'm a cheesehead.
Which is wonderful because I have such a soft spot in my heart for Wisconsin. I went to school there, and then I lived in Milwaukee and taught theater in Milwaukee. I'm wondering...
That's amazing.
Yeah, at First Stage, if you're familiar with First Stage in Milwaukee, the children's theater there.
I moved when I was so little, but I love Milwaukee. How long were you there?
I was there for a couple years, and then made my way down to Chicago and eventually did grad school at DePaul.
I also went down to Chicago from Milwaukee.
It seems like there's a lot that's very common in that area. Like people leave Chicago to Milwaukee or leave Milwaukee to go to Chicago. Yeah. When did you get started in, how did you get your start in performance? Were you in theater? Was it in school?
It was in school. I went to school I went to a Montessori preschool. So I feel like we did a lot of dress up and play pretend. And I went to elementary school in a community in the suburbs of Chicago that really valued the arts. So it felt like we were always putting on class plays and reenacting scenes from books we were reading. And I caught the bug. Anything from being, you know, Little Red Riding Hood to Tree Number 2, I just like couldn't wait to get back up on stage. And it helped me as a kid who was kind of a bookworm. I think it helped me like figure out who I was and who I wanted to be and how I wanted to use my imagination. Yeah, what about
I love that you got that start in Montessori. The classroom I was in most recently, I taught 7th and 8th grade Montessori.
Oh, wow.
So
what brought you into teaching and what ultimately brought you to Montessori?
So I studied theater in undergrad and then moved to Milwaukee. I used to live in Eau Claire. I went to school in Eau Claire and then moved to Milwaukee to teach theater. And then I loved being in the classroom. That's why I eventually became a full-time classroom teacher. But the more I spent in the classroom, like the kids just loved being in there, right? And I was having just as much fun, like playing pretend and being silly and like doing these creative drama classes where we'd like go into the Lion King as new characters, right? And I was just having a hoot. And I was like, I need to be in the classroom every day. This is way too much fun. And I had a lot of friends who like went off to New York to do performance. And I was like, you know, I think I want to be in the classroom because it was really fun. And then was very lucky to start the drama program at my last school. So still keeping my toes wet in the theater.
That's so
So people probably know you very well as Mitch from The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. How has that show been for you? And what is it like just playing this like deeply hilarious person.
It's absolutely horrifying every day as someone who would not consider myself to be deeply hilarious, but it's been such a dream. It's been the most incredible thing, and one of the silver linings to come out of this really strange moment has actually been a moment to reflect on what a special experience this has been, because it's been such a whirlwind for the last couple of years working on the show, and we were supposed to be headed back very soon, and obviously we'll have to wait until that's safe for everyone. But
right.
Man, the ability to shoot in New York and to get to work with talent of this caliber, from Amy Sherman-Palladino to Tony Shalhoub and Alex Borstein and Maren Hinkle, and guest stars like Wanda Sykes and Sterling K. Brown.
Yeah.
I mean, it has just been a nonstop dream, and it has been probably the greatest gift I have ever received. That sounds so like, but it really has been.
It's such a great show. I'm always blown away by how fast your character can speak. Like,
Me too.
It's a lot.
I think I can't tell whether I came in kind of a fast talker or whether I've become a much faster talker since working on the show. I find myself really having to remember to take a breath. I've stopped breathing deeply in an effort to get out that many words at once. But Amy, one of my favorite things that Amy said about the pacing of the show, Amy Sherman-Palladino, our creator, is that people ask her a lot about the pacing and about how fast everyone speaks, but she maintains that she feels like that's how quickly people talk. Nobody sits in a coffee shop and thinks too hard about what coffee they're going to order and then pauses while they're ordering it. Nobody goes, I think I will have a cappuccino. Thank you. They go, yeah, I'll have a cappuccino. Thank you so much. And then they move on. And I think I'm subscribing to that at this point.
I love it. I'm a fan of it. I love the show, and unfortunately, the campaign pulled me away from all forms of enjoyment. So I can't wait to catch back up. So many people were in my mentions about the next season, wondering when they were going to get the next season. So you clearly have a wonderful fan base.
That's so lovely. Thank you. As soon as possible. I mean, we can't wait to get back. We miss each other and can't wait to do it. But our show is so large and involves so many people. And so we're just going to have to wait until it's as safe as possible for everyone to get back to it.
Well, I know a lot of people are excited. And randomly, one of our main photographers on the campaign, Karina, used to work on the show. I forget what she did.
In our first season, right?
I believe so. Yeah, and then she found her way to us. So
that's so cool.
I'll make sure to tell her you say hello. Oops.
Yes, please.
There we go.
I can't tell if I'm dipping in or out. The internet and my Instagram Live are not.
It's just the internet. And I think RuPaul is on right now, so I'm sure RuPaul's just hogging all the internet.
RuPaul has the right to hog all the internet.
So Rachel, thank you so much, one, for just entertaining us and bringing us joy, and then also for using your platform for good, especially on behalf of so many kids in our country who need us to stick up for them, and who also are relying on folks like us to use our platforms to advocate for them as well. Is there anything that you wanted to leave us with about Covenant House that I failed to catch with Kevin, or your personal connection to the organization?
I mean, Kevin did such a beautiful job covering the scope of what they do.
Yeah.
I think something, just a brief story, something that has always struck me about Covenant House, and something, again, that I think sets them apart, is that they recognize that the path to progress isn't always linear. And sometimes that means that when people walk through Covenant House's doors, they might not be ready to take all of the steps necessary to pursue their brightest future. And one of the things that I love and admire so much about Covenant House and their mission is that they never turn anyone away, and their doors are always open. So even if that means that someone has had to come back again and again and again, each and every time they return, they are told that this is going to be the time that they succeed. And you can feel that every time you walk through the doors. It's so beautiful to feel that energy in all of the Covenant House locations that I've visited. And as Kevin said, they've been hit particularly hard, and I appreciate how thoughtful they're being in response to this crisis, and what the best way is to accommodate the various needs of all their different kids. I know that one of the things that they're increasing is, access to mental health services. It's always been a priority for them, but especially in this time for both staff and young people alike. Yeah. So I know times are difficult for so many right now, but if there is anything at all that you can give, every little bit makes a difference.
Thank you. Thanks. And I hope everyone visits covenanthouse.org to figure out how they can help. Like Rachel said, if you can chip in a few bucks tonight, we'd really appreciate it. We look forward to watching you on the special. Thanks for helping us spread some joy, and I hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you. Back at you. And thank you so much for doing this. I've so loved getting to meet all the people that you've spoken to this way and get to know more about you. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you very much. It's nice chatting with you, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Yeah, definitely. Have a great night.
Take care. All right, everyone. Again, that's covenanthouse.org if you want to help out a great organization that I was able to visit while I was out on the campaign trail. Thank you so much, Kevin, for spending your evening with us and telling us more about the organization. Thank you, Rachel, for taking your time and donating your time to the organization and for chatting with us this evening. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. I hope you take care of one another. Reach out to those people in your life who might need just an extra ping, just an extra hello. Write a card, call your mom, and go easy on yourselves. Take care. We'll see you next week.